Hi everyone, it's your boy Zach, and this video is a little weird because I just got into Star Trek Discovery on season 2, but as actually not as most people know. As you know, if you actually get CBS All Access, it's not like Netflix. You can't binge the whole season at once. They release it once a week, just like a regular TV show. So I got really excited by the first 2 episodes, and then I had to wait like 4 more days for the next one. So I watched one short trek, The Big Bang Theory, The Big Breakfast, something. The one with Saru, and it was okay. It was solid. So then today I just watched the short trek of Calypso, and then season 1, episode 1, yes, from like 15 months ago. And I thought they were both fantastic. Now, I'm actually in a very good position to like season 1 because of reasons. And here are the reasons. Number 1, I came in on the supposedly, and it looks like, improved season 2. More Trek-like, more fun and positive and adventure-like. But also, I watched some videos, and this one is key. Now, there's a bunch of videos on this, and I think Midnight's Edge covered one of them. But basically, there are a ton of corporate shenanigans. Not shenanigans. Just corporate contract weirdness going on with Paramount and CBS. And there's a thing that I didn't know when the show was first announced, and it really bothered me. And now that I know it, I'm just fine. So this has to be 20. Okay, if I got this correct, it has to be 25% different than basically previous versions of Star Trek for multiple reasons. Which is why the Klingons look different, the uniforms look different. I don't remember if the Starfleet symbol looks different, but the ones that were screaming out, like the Klingons, you're like, why I'm getting so angry? Well, it's because for very boring, legal, intricate reasons, it has to be 25% different than the previous versions. So once I found that out, and that explained why the ships are different and why everything is like different, then I go, oh, okay, so it's just a weird legal thing that they had to deal with and then tell a story. So basically, I watched Calypso first. And Calypso takes place, spoilers, it's good, go check it out, 1,000 years in the future. And the Discovery is basically a ghost ship with the computers, the ship operating system has evolved to essentially become sentient. So there's a guy whose name is either Quarrel or Craft or something else. He's a soldier in an escape pod, and it's adrift. And these short treks also have a weird corporate shenanigan, legal business reason for existing. Basically, Netflix footed the bill for most of season 1, and then they got pissed because the reviews and the ratings weren't what they were expecting. So CBS was trying to get more money, so they go, hey, we got a deal. We got these 4 short treks. There are 4 extra adventures, and we'll sell it to you for $11 jillion. And they go, we don't want any of them even for free. And they were like, oh. So I've seen 2 of them. The first one only had 3 speaking roles. This one only has 2. Although technically it's 3 roles because there's a voiceover. And then when the female operating system for the ship appears, it's a different actress than the voice actress. But anyway, it's a really sweet, very simple story. It's by Michael Chabon, who I believe wrote Spider-Man 2, like the old one back in the day with Tobey Maguire. It's really simple, but it was actually very endearing. It's basically a ship falling in love with the first person it encounters in 1,000 years, and then helping him move on to where he needs to be. Very simple story, but somehow engaging to get 18 minutes out of. That being said, okay, got into Star Trek Discovery season 1, episode 1, the premiere of it from like September of last year. September of 2017. And I love this. I love this. So I've heard a lot of complaints, and I like roast, I like cringe. So I've read a million things, 20 things wrong with Star Trek Discovery and all that type of stuff. And I got to say, I feel like this was poisoned from the beginning, owing a lot to that 25% different thing that I don't think it came out publicly until afterwards. And if you know it, it's all kind of fun. Like I kept watching, watching it and enjoying it, and then mentally doing like a strike through, when you do a line through a word of all of these complaints that I had heard before. One was that Michael Burnham started a war because she's a terrible person, she's a terrible officer, she's terrible everything. And I've only seen the first episode, but there are extremely extenuating circumstances why it happened. So we start off and it's Michael Burnham. Do they ever explain why her name is Michael? It annoys me. I actually started calling her Michaela in my head, and then I remembered her name is Michael. They don't say it a lot, but every time they say it, I'm like, ugh. So Michael is the first officer, so she's basically Riker. And then there's a captain named Giorgio, which it always makes me think of some like gigolo from the south of France. But they're on a planet and they are totally not, in quotation marks, breaking the Prime Directive. Basically, there's these weird mollusks or something that are, their well doesn't work. It's, there's a blockage to the water table, something. And there's a storm that's going to come in and last for 86 years, and they need the water. So Burnham and the captain of the ship, so basically they're unblocking a well, which is a really minor thing. They literally just shoot a rifle down, and I feel like there is bad writing. Okay, so there are things, even with saying I liked it, like you're like, why is it the captain? And because there does seem to be a good amount of risk there. And also there's increased risk by, now I'm assuming Burnham estimated when this storm was coming in, using data and a tricorder. But then she just kind of says it like she's guessing, and then she's very wrong. So they almost end up getting trapped there. They gotta hurry and get out of there. And they also... they're not supposed to break the Prime Directive, but they walk right underneath the nests of these people. Okay. I didn't notice this much. When I was watching it, like, it's got, classic entertainment. It's shot well, good cinematography, good actors, charismatic actors, photogenic, and you don't notice, like, I did notice that, like, why are they going right by him? Why didn't they come from the opposite direction? So, I gotta say, the sensors are not working because of atmosphere X, Y, and Z. I've seen 3 episodes of Star Trek Discovery, and they seem to use that one a lot. Way more than was used in, like, say, STNG. Although I was thinking about something with the whole 25% different thing. So one of the big things about, sci-fi is you're like, well, why don't robots, why don't drones, why don't sensors do all this type of stuff? And at some point, there's this thing, I was in the infantry in the Marines and the Army, and they used to say, the infantryman's basically the guy who's never going to be made obsolete. It's a guy with a stick or a spear or a sword or a gun or whatever there's going to be in the future. But there's always going to be that thing where long-range sensors, aircraft, satellites, all those things don't work. And you just need to send them some people with feet and legs and arms, and they walk into a cave or they go underneath a storm or something like that. So that almost is like a way to explain why Starfleet exists. Like, Starfleet exists literally to go down on planets. It's literally the things that drones and robots and satellites can't do. So, okay, so basically they're introducing them. They have a good professional relationship, and they are not friends, but friendly. They then get a mission, which is to investigate a thing that's on the edge of Federation space. Although 25% thing right here is Federation is, it's basically, I don't know, like space, NATO combined with NASA. They're exploration, but they also do some protection for, signatory planets. This one seems to be straight up acting, this is an empire, this is our territory, this is the other empire's territory, you can't cross into our territory. Like, there's a whole bunch of things in this episode where I can hear Picard in my head and Riker, and I can hear, oh my gosh, I'm blanking. Cisco. I can hear Cisco saying, okay, we're going to leave. Like, there's a lot of, we're going into this, politically dicey area to do this, inadvisable thing with no actual time hack. And, oh, Bob, what's he do that Daisy? We started a war. So, there's a thing that's being blocked by sensors, and it's scrambling even, everything but analog stuff, like a telescope. So they send, for reasons they can't send a shuttlecraft, through something that seems to be made for shuttlecrafts, which is high radiation area, and there's a lot of debris, and you plot a course, but if you can't plot a course, so we're going to send Burnham to first officer in a little, I forget what the suit's called. It's like that suit that Spock had in Star Trek the Motion Picture. It's like a one-man jet that's a suit. So she goes in and she discovers this really ornate craft. Now, I had been talking about season 2 where I said it's a pretty good show, but Burnham isn't fun. But at least in episode 1, she is fun and she's really interesting. At one point, she's in the suit and it's kind of accelerating and she starts kind of like giggling and, they're reading her heartbeat and her respiration. And so he was like, oh, something's happening with her heart rate. And then the captain's like, well, she's excited. It's like, yeah, she's excited. She's doing what she probably, I don't know exactly why she joined Starfleet, but most likely it's for adventure and exploration and do exciting things. So she's doing that. She gets this craft, and I really, really liked how she was marveling at it. You could see that she was a very bright person, very curious, very excited about discovering things. I kept hearing that, like, in complaints, it's like, Star Trek Discovery is just a spy war story. There's no discovering. Well, there's discovery right there. There's been 2 scenes of it in the first episode, and you can kind of see that's kind of Starfleet, prime, not prime directive, but their major mission. And so what happens is there has been established that there's a high radiation in this area, and she only has 20 minutes, and she has to get back, or her genes are going to unravel, which I don't know if that's really a thing, but it's a very visual representation of what radiation will do to you. It's like, oh, okay, cool. Yeah, get out of there before your genes unravel. So then she lands on this thing, and she's just about to leave, and this really, really cool looking Klingon in armor comes out and basically pulls out a big bat'leth and is about to kill her. So at this point, I was just saying, she's already supposed to be jumping off and just flying back. And I actually was almost kind of like laughing, like, this is a really low-tech defense of this, I forget what this thing is called. So why doesn't she just be like, later, Gator, and then just jump up and, go back to the ship? But instead, he launches himself at her and she bum rushes him. I'm not sure why. No. Her family was killed in an attack on a human Klingon colony. Her human parents, because she's human, were killed, and she was adopted by Sarek. Actually, one of my big problems before watching was like, wait, Spock has a human, foster sister that he's never mentioned. That's kind of dumb, but human Klingon science colony attacked by Klingons. Human parents are killed. The surviving Klingons adopt the surviving human children. That's all. Just that works out fine. It's fine. So she's been traumatized by Klingons. Some things seem worse when I talk about them, but then things that didn't make sense now do. So basically, she sees a Klingon. She's angry. He almost killed her, so she reacts. Fight or flight, and her personality is fight. So she goes to tackle him, and in a kind of a dumb and I don't know how sharp a space bat'leth is. These things actually seem much more balanced as weapons than they do in STNG. STNG, they always seem terribly balanced. Like as soon as you hit the blade, the whole thing's going to rotate back on the person wielding it. But this one's it kind of flips around and it stabs the guy. So that's kind of the Crispus Attucks, the first person killed in a war. But it's kind of understandable. He did not need to come out. He didn't need to. Well, I guess he could have. I guess him defending it was understandable, and her personal, reaction to a Klingon was understandable. Then she goes back and she's basically getting radiation rehabilitation. They're fixing her up in med bay, but she hasn't been able to report that a Klingon. They just think something weird happened. They were able to retrieve her. And so she rushes out, and she's still got radiation burns on her. She's still got a concussion. She's all discombobulated. And she says, there's a Klingon right there. And we need to go to, battle stations. And then they're like, no one's seen a Klingon for 100 years. But she's got a good relationship with Georgiou. So she says, okay, let's go to battle stations. Now, then she went back. I can't remember something. Something happened. I think it was something like... There's this black sheep who ironically is an albino in the Klingons. And they basically explain the Klingons' motivations very well, that they feel like there's encroachment on their territory. There's their slogan is remain Klingon, which is probably, a separatist, isolationist philosophy. So they're isolationists and they feel like they're being encroached upon. There's some other things, but they it's a first blood type of thing, and then they need a replacement in this black sheep called Nock. He's got no family blade. He volunteers. He proves himself worthy by holding his hand in the flame of Kalis. And it's cool. And like I said, this whole scene, I never would have been able to get over it if I wouldn't known about that 25% difference thing, for legal reasons and what do you call it? Copyright, trademark, and licensing, all of that type of stuff. Options, whatever. So now I was just completely into it. I loved it. I liked the whole concept. I go, okay, I can see what's happening. So then they cut back to the mutiny scene. Now the mutiny scene would be really, really bad if this was what's her name? Burnham in her right mind, her regular, calm professional. She's had multiple traumas, the same race that's disappeared for the most part for 100 years, who killed her parents, tried to kill her. She killed one. Then she got extreme radiation poisoning, almost died, and a concussion, and all the, PTSD and shock of seeing a Klingon, fighting a Klingon, and radiation poisoning. Again, her genes were almost unspooling. And then she does a subspace call to Sarek and says, how'd you guys deal with Klingons? And he goes, oh, we're very logical. So after our first encounter that didn't go well, whenever we saw Klingons, we just shot at them. First thing, as soon as we sensed them, destroy them. And then Klingons actually respected us, and then there was a peace. So she comes out, again, concussion, emotional trauma, radiation poisoning, and basically she does a coup, a mutiny. And then it ends on a cliffhanger where more Klingons show up, and obviously I don't know what happens, but I thought it was fantastic. But I completely understand how people who went in cold in September of 2017, and they're like, why are the Klingons looking different? Why? But I mean, a lot of this stuff is understandable, but a lot of this stuff is, and I fall prey to this, your first impression before you watch it, stuff that happens in the first 10 minutes, and you're just it's like binary year. You're like, I accept this, I don't accept this. So I loved it. I'm excited. I'm going to watch one episode of season 1 per day. I got 2 more short treks, and then I'll be caught up. And then it's going to be, if season 2 is good, it's going to be a little bit excruciating waiting every week because I'm not used to that. I sometimes wait till a series is all the way done to start watching it. But I love it. So tell me your thoughts. Tell me what you think about me doing all of a video for each episode of season 1, or should I just do maybe like 2 at a time? I think maybe once I burn through the short treks, I might start doing 2 episodes. But if you want me to do every single episode, by all means, let me know. So thanks for watching, and I'll have another video up tomorrow. Bye.